Hi there, I'm going to show you how to connect equipment so that you can record into Garageband. First thing I'm going to do is boot up Garageband. Now, connected to my laptop, I've got a couple of devices. Let me just get rid of this project we have here. First of these is this thing here. This is an Apogee Duet, and it's an audio to digital interface. It's what I'm using to connect my microphones or guitars to my laptop. It converts the analog signal from those devices and turns them into digital information so the computer can use it. It is connected via a USB cable. Now, there are lots and lots of these types of devices on the market for all different types of price values, price amounts. This is one I particularly like, and it works really, really well with Macs. It's not one you have to have, though. You can get cheaper ones than this. But the idea is that we have our, in this case, a Shure SM57 microphone, which I plug in with a microphone cable, and I plug it into one of these inputs here. Now, these inputs then go into this device, which converts the analog signal to digital information, and then travels through the USB cable, going into my USB input on this side of my laptop. Now, I can verify that this device is plugged in, because if I go to my audio settings here, if I hold down Option and click on the speaker, I can see what my input device is. In this case, it's the Duet USB, and that is the correct device. Notice we do have the option for internal microphone if we want to use the internal microphone on the laptop, but we're going to do Duet USB. And just so I can hear things easily at the moment, I'm going to have my output device as my internal speakers of the laptop. If I had Duet USB, I would then need to connect the outputs of this, which in this case is these connections here. Need to connect these to some headphones or to more probably some speakers. I'm going to leave those as they are. Now, Garageband, when it's booted up, as long as these settings are correct here, then Garageband will use the same settings in that the audio input is going to use a system setting of this case, which is going to be the Duet USB, and the audio output is the same as the system setting. Getting your system settings correct before you connect anything, before you boot up Garageband is really critical to make this work. Now, I'm going to start a new project and I'm going to use the Songwriter. So I'm going to click Choose, and here we have a preset, a template that has been set up. We can see our drummer track, and if we push play, we can hear it. Now, remember this microphone we just set up? We can actually record into it as well. We're using this tracking vocal channel. As long as I select that, we can now see that I've got some signal coming through, which is fantastic. So therefore, if I go back to the beginning and push record, we can see me recording over the top. Test, 1, 2, hello, check, 1, 2, testing, and push spacebar to stop. Now we can see my signal here. If we double click on this region, we can see down below here, if I just make this bigger this way perhaps, we can see it's quite a low level, it's quite a small signal. So we probably want to get a bit of a slightly stronger signal than that, otherwise I'm going to have to be trying to turn the volume way up, and we may run out of what's known as headroom. So in this case, I'm going to delete what I've got there, and then I'm going to double click on the track, sorry, not that part of it, to open up our controls down here. Now, if I push this I button to the side here, it's very important to show the inspector, we have the option here to control our recording level. So the recording level is a bit low, check 1, 2, I can turn it up, and now we can see my meters are much, much stronger. So let's try and record that again. Check, 1, 2, test, hello. We can see our signal is a lot stronger. That's wonderful. So now we're recording our vocals and we can hear it back. Check, 1, 2, test, hello. We can see our signal is a lot. And here it is. Now we notice we've got some other cool features down here. We can do automatic level control where Garageband will figure out what the appropriate level is for you, but I just did it manually, and that tends to be the safest. And we also have the option down here for plugins where we can use some EQ, some compression, some more EQ, and maybe put some echo in here as well. We can turn that on, and we can hear what our track sounds like with echo. Those are all very, very useful features to remember that are there. Now, this is dealing with audio, so microphones or electric guitars that we've plugged into analog to digital interfaces like this, and we're recording real-life audio. What's really useful with Garageband as well is to use devices like this, a MIDI keyboard or a MIDI guitar. Now this is also connected to the laptop with a USB cable. You basically plug it in, and the great thing about Macs is it just works. So if I now go and highlight one of my MIDI tracks, in this case we have a Steinway grand piano down here, we can see and here that we have some audio there. And delete our vocal, we're going to go back to the beginning. And now we can have a listen to, we can try and record in some MIDI data as well on this grand piano track. And so on. We can continue to create our masterpiece. But of course we want to have more than just a piano. We may also want to record in, say, a bass guitar. So I'm going to click on this plus button up the top here. That's going to create me a new track. Now I'm going to specify it's going to be a software instrument because I'm going to record an electric bass, but I'm not going to use a bass guitar. I'm going to use my MIDI keyboard and I'm going to play it in as MIDI. So software instrument, create. But rather than electric piano sound, I'm going to go over here and choose bass. Now, if this area here is not available to you on your screen, just click on this button at the top left here. This is showing the library, and here we now have the option to. Now that's one octave too high, so on my MIDI keyboard, I'm going to push the octave down button so I can get the lower octave. Good. Let's give that a go and try and record that. And we can carry on. Now, of course, the wonderful thing about MIDI, and probably my favourite aspect of MIDI, is that we can improve the performance after we've recorded. If I double click, we now see the MIDI region down here. We can see my performance, which wasn't too bad. I'm a little bit ahead of the beat most of the time. We can fix that by quantizing everything to eighth notes. And now my bass line is going to be completely in time. If we listen to it now. But I'm very glad I showed you this as I made a mistake. Quantizing by eighth notes means that those little fast 16th note runs that I did have been mucked up. So if I change it to 16th note quantize, we should now get sounding a little bit better. And of course we can do the same thing with our grand piano. We can go and quantize that maybe to eighth notes because I don't think we had any 16th notes in there. Now you may have noticed one thing across the top here is this drummer. Now this guy here is really, really amazing, but it may not be such a good idea to have this running when you're trying to write a song because the feel of the drum kit will dictate what kind of song you're going to do. Now that may be a good thing, that may be what you need to do, or you may want to go and change the style of the drum kit so we get... Or we can just mute it with the mute button there and we can just work maybe with the click. And that way it will not lock you into anything too stylistic, so you're free to create your own kind of song with your own kind of feel, and then you can add the drummer feature back in later on once you know you can find a drum performance that will support what you've got. Okay, and so that's the basics. That's all you need to know to get going. Of course, the great thing about Garageband, it is very intuitive. You don't need to read manuals. Just click a whole lot of buttons and see what happens with things. You'll be surprised at how in-depth and what a wonderful digital audio workstation this is. So I will encourage you to go ahead, record some MIDI, record some audio, you play around with the drummer track and go and create a wonderful song.